Hi, I'm Kelly Spolsky here with Thunder Bay Live, and I have in studio Doug.
Doug Powell, running for McKellar Ward.
Doug Powell, running for McKellar Ward. I understand you have some things you need to talk about today.
Yes, well, the campaign is going well, but
Okay.
I had come across, I was searching Google for the construction company that wants to do our event center.
Okay.
Now, PLC Contracting, or the consortium, there is numerous pages of lawsuits. Now, whether it's the same consortium or company, or I am not sure, but it bears further investigation. But I came up with 25 pages of lawsuits with 10 hits to a page. Now, I don't know if they're related to this company, but it bears further investigation. Now, whether the council did true diligence or not, I don't know. But people can look them up themselves and do their own investigations, because I'm going to continue mine. But some of these are probably, not to say all of them, but there's probably even a small percentage. And even if there is a small percentage, that's way too many, considering they want us to give them $110 million.
Right.
You know, if they're doing substandard work and they have pending lawsuits, let's face it, do we want them for us to have another problem like we do at the hospital and with the auditorium? Like, we still have issues with the auditorium. They constantly need to repair. And look at the hospital. Behind the hospital, we have material delivered there on a regular basis to keep the maintenance up, because it's constantly needing fixing, because it's always shifting.
Shifting?
Shifting. It's sitting on a bog. It's always shifting, and the walls and the floors are always cracking, and they always have to be replacing things.
Oh.
So it's under constant construction. There's always material there, and they're always working on it, and that's at taxpayers' expense.
So what you're saying is
There's a big possibility, and I'm saying there's more than a 50% chance that some of these are the consortium that want to build our event center.
Okay, I follow you.
There's a possibility. Okay, I'm not saying that there is, but you've got 25 pages, 10 hits to a page, of PLC contracting involved in lawsuits. Now, how many PLC contracting can there be?
That I don't know.
Well, how many companies can use the same name?
Right.
Or corporations, without there being some kind of cross-match or confusion?
Definitely something to sort out.
Exactly. But anyway, well, that's another battle. But not to forget that tomorrow night at the Italian Cultural Center, I believe it is, and I think is it 7 o'clock?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, 7 o'clock at the Italian Cultural Center, Phase 3 of the consortium will be there to present their new pretty book with all their fancy pictures, and to let us know all the fancy new stuff that they want to give us for $110 million.
And this is the third meeting that they're having for the public?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. But it would be really nice if everybody was to get out there and make
You're
an
going to be there,
appearance.
obviously.
Of course I'm going to be there. I'll be behind my camera and then with my hand up asking questions,
Right.
as usual.
As it should be. Do a lot of people attend?
Well, there is, and sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. But I think this time there's going to be. Just
Yes.
like I think there's going to be a lot of people going out to vote this year. In fact, I hope there's a lot of people to go out and vote this year.
Yes.
This is a very milestone event. This, more than any other election, people have to go out and make their choice. When you don't vote, then what you're doing is you're voting for the person you didn't want. So if you didn't vote, then you can't complain. So get up, go register yourself, go spend the 45 minutes or an hour it takes to go and vote that day, and put your name down and do your civic duty and vote.
And there are different ways that people
Yeah,
can register.
you can register online. Go to the city website or phone the city clerk's office, and they would be more than happy to inform you on how you would do that.
Perfect. And the website. And there are signs all over the city, and they actually have a portable unit that
Yes,
you
they
can
do.
attend.
They're having a voting truck or a voting van driving around and helping people out with their registration for their voting.
That's so proactive of the city.
Yeah, and I don't think they've done that before.
I don't recall that either.
No, that's a
but,
newbie.
How's your area doing? Are you knocking on doors? What's happening?
I've knocked on doors. It's doing all right. There's a lot of people don't want to vote. I've heard there's a lot of people that are going to vote, but there's a lot of people say that they don't vote because it doesn't change anything. Doesn't matter who they vote for. Well,
Wow.
you know, and I try to explain to them that that's the wrong attitude. That may have been the way it was, but now you have a lot of people out there they've got a lot of soul. You know what I mean? They've got what they've got to do the job. You know what I mean? And you've got to have heart to do this.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just to go up and take the job and say, "Oh, I'm going to do the job." You got to have the soul to do the job. You got to have the want to do it, right?
The drive, whatever
The
it
drive,
takes,
yes.
and the knowledge, and what age group are you generally seeing that say their vote doesn't change anything? Is there a
30s,
generalization?
30s, 40s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, young
Wow.
people tend to be more on the idea of voting, but it's the 30s and 40s people that don't seem to really care much.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is. We live in an informed society, and it's very easy, as you're shown by some of your printouts, that we can be an informed society.
All it takes is a computer and a few keystrokes.
Hmm. And if you don't have a computer, you can go to the library and use their computers.
Exactly.
It's almost impossible nowadays.
Well, yes, but I wanted to get on to another issue is the problem that we have in this city with crime, homelessness.
Yes.
Okay, now, a lot of the crime that we have is due to homelessness. Okay, because homelessness creates despair creates alcohol and drug abuse. Okay, it all leads down one channel.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem that we have is you have criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have people that are just bad because that's their choice in life. That's what they do. But then you have people that are unfortunate. They end up in this situation because that's just the way the cards fell for them. But they all get thrown into the same bowl. So you have, say, 100 people. Okay, so 15%, 15 of those people choose to be bad or what they're doing, criminals. But the other 85 aren't. Okay, so what you have now is you have them all in the same bowl. So you have like all things, you have the small amount tainting the large amount.
Okay.
Okay, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch.
I follow
Okay,
you.
so what we have to do is we have to find a way of helping those that are helpable to get them away from that situation so that they're not in need of looking for the alcohol and the drugs. We have to help them, not a hand out, but a hand up,
Makes sense.
okay, to get them from where they are to where they can be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
And then that takes the load off EMS, police services. You don't have the emergency calls, you don't have the ambulance running there, you don't have the fire department running there, you don't have the police running there. These people become self-sufficient, become valued members of society again, and they live longer, they're happier, everything works out better. Now, you're not going to get 100%, but if you were to get 40% or even 30% success rate, that's quite a savings and quite an achievement.
Yes, it is.
You know, so you can't go for 100% in anything, but any achievement, even a 30% achievement, which is exactly what I'd like to be shooting for. Like when I was a treasurer for the Thunder Bay Coalition Against Poverty,
Okay.
that's what we would do. We would take a big paper board and we would we'd prioritize what we needed to do, and that's what we'd do. We would find ways of helping people up, not hand out, but helping people up and out of their
Empowering
situation.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Giving them self-worth. You know what I mean? Teaching them that they have quality that people need, not that they're worthless. People get this feeling that they have no worth, that they have nothing that they can offer society, and then they fall into a pit.
It's
And
a
then
vicious
they don't.
cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, and then they don't take care of themselves, and then they don't take. And then the next thing you know, they're on the street. They're drug addicts. They're in the hospital. And then they end up living a very miserable and short life.
Yes, and there are people in the trenches in
There was a
social work
time,
that,
a few decades ago, where we took care of our mentally ill.
mhm,
Okay, we didn't let them run around on the street on buses and cause trouble in malls and have to have the police, which is a big cost to our budget, have the police deal with them 150 times a day. Okay, now that's why they had facilities like the LPH,
mhm,
okay, to help these people, okay, and to manage their illnesses
Right.
or their mental disabilities,
mhm.
okay. And that was fine, but we've gotten away from that. It was easier to throw them on the street. Now, it's not cheaper,
Oh, in the
and
long
it's
run,
not
no.
safer, not for them, and not for the general public.
Mhm.
And that's been proven time and again. And then you take the homeless. At one time, to find homeless people at one time was a choice. Okay, it wasn't a forced thing. You take 40, 50 years ago, homelessness was nowhere near as prevalent as it is now.
Well, no.
Okay, back then, people looked out for other people. If you seen somebody in need or somebody that needed help, people went out and helped that person. Not just organizations, ordinary people.
Mhm.
Neighborhoods would go and help that person up and out of that situation. Now nobody cares. You can be lying on the street bleeding and people walk right past you.
We've become desensitized to a lot of things in society.
Jaded.
I mean, not everybody's like that. I mean,
No, but
there are people out there that do genuinely
They care, but it's a minority now.
Yeah.
It really is. You look in the big cities. I just got back from Toronto not that long ago. And you walk down the streets and there's people living on the streets. Not like here we don't have that kind of a big problem with them, but they're actually living on the streets with all of their possessions.
Mhm.
You know, and that's where they live.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're not there by choice. They're hungry, they're lonely, they're
Mhm.
cold. They have nowhere else to go, no one to talk to. And these aren't bad people.
Well, things happen. One thing
Right,
leads
they
to
didn't,
another.
the economy sucks. Okay? Business sucks. And business does not care. Like when you start a job and you go working for a corporation, to say, oh, well, everything's for the company and we'll look after you. But the second the company decides that their assets are more valuable than you, well, you're not an asset. You're out the door. And it doesn't matter that you land on the street. They don't care about that. Their bottom line is more important than you.
Mhm.
And that's why we have so many people on the street, is because companies care more about their bottom line than they did about their employees.
Right. But there are organizations out there to help an individual.
Like I said, there are individuals, I should say, that choose not to, right? But there's a lot of individuals out there that would love the opportunity to get from where they are to where they should be.
I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to go out today and be a criminal and be bad and hurt people. I don't think
No.
people actually come out of their sleep and actually,
No.
you know.
Well, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for another way of solving our crime issue. Now, as far as repeat offenders go,
Mhm.
okay, I'm a little hard on that. Like
Yeah.
people that are in and out of the courts constantly and getting slapped on the wrist, okay, and then in and out, in and out. Now, those people should be taught a lesson and kept in there, because all that does is teaches other people that, well, I can do whatever I want, and I'm only going to get a few months, or so I can just do whatever I want. And if I do get caught, well, I'll be out in a couple of months anyway, 3 squares a day in a bed to sleep in.
Or move to another province and start it all over
Over
again.
again,
and
yeah.
Ruin
So
a
there
bunch
has
of
to be
lives.
stiffer sentences for repeat offenders,
Mhm.
especially repeat offenders for the same offense.
Mhm.
And that's up to the courts.
I do
And that's
feel a
our
change.
judges who live here in Thunder Bay. They're the ones that have the say.
Right.
You know, the law's there, it's written, they have to apply it.
Mhm.
It's their call. The police can
It's-
lay the charges, The Crown Attorney can prosecute it, but it's up to judges to follow through and deal with these people like they should.
So are you saying fill the jails more or socially help these people?
Well, you socially help the people that can be helped, okay? But I'm just saying, now, not so much as fill the jails, but to take these people that do these things and not to take city jobs away from
Right.
people, but you know, in the States they have this business where, you know, there's places in the city where city works and where in places where city workers never go. You never see anything cleaned up, like the waterfront. All the way along the waterfront, it looks terrible all the way along there. All the deep grass, all that stuff. Now, there's no reason why these people that get in trouble and end up in the farm or end up in the DJ can't be marched down there on nice days to clean that up.
I thought they did before along the highways. I used to see.
Yeah, but
See
I
that
haven't
happening.
seen that in a long time either.
Right.
But there's no reason why they can't be doing that. It's not like anybody else is doing it. Things like that, right? Why are they just sitting in there? Now, there's a deterrent, because they don't like to do anything. So, they can get up and do something.
A lot of it too, I think partly is cutbacks in certain areas in the jails, which I'm not 100% on, where they don't have the people
Okay.
to actually take them out.
Well, it's
I-
we're talking about public safety here.
Right.
All right, and then deterrence. So now there has to be a line between public safety, deterrence, and money. All right, now, whose life is worth that much money, that little money, or that much money? That, okay, well, we can save $100,000, but it's going to cost a couple of lives.
Right. Yeah, what's the value on?
What is the value, the bottom line
Yeah.
value? So, and that's how they look at it too. They look at how much, okay, if we cut back $100,000 or $200,000 on this specific program, right? What's the collateral damage?
Right. There's a lot of issues that need to be revamped in our society, and it seems like it's coming apart at the seams.
Right, and in Thunder Bay especially, we have a crime rate here, and the police aren't giving you all the information. You know, stuff's coming out about the stuff that they bury left, right, and center.
Right.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Once somebody blows the lid right off that place, eventually it will happen, probably. You're going to see a can of worms open up that's probably atrocious over the
Right.
years. You know, they got to be more forthcoming, but they're not. They try to portray a picture of everything hunky-dory when it's not.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And the people in the city know it's not.
Yeah, people are, like I said
You know,
earlier, it's
they-
an information age.
And like even council tries to paint a pretty picture, right? You get the chief of police goes into the council when he went asking for his 2 new vehicles. Oh, well, everything's all good. You know what I mean? And then you get the deputy chief. He goes on television trying to line themselves up for a big budget increase. All the murders and stuff like that. Well, they already get $38 million, which 85% or 80% goes to wages and benefits.
Right.
And here's another little tidbit about that. I was in council when Chief Levesque did his last budget.
Okay.
Now, I was sitting behind him when Rebecca Johnson asked him if he could lower his budget by $200,000 because they wanted to keep the mill rate down under a point, right? But he said, point blank, to council, right? If you don't give us our wage and benefit package, we won't be able to respond to your calls in a timely manner.
Okay.
And he looked at council, and council buckled. Now, as far as I'm concerned, right there, the man should have been sanctioned. Now, what does that sound like to you?
Sounds pretty heavy.
Well, if I was to go and say that to somebody, wouldn't that be considered some kind of a threat? In a form,
Well,
if you don't do this, then I won't do that.
how did how was this justified then? Like,
Well, they just buckled. They let him have his budget. They just passed it.
oh, okay. And this was recently, obviously.
This was
Okay.
the last budget. I think it was
Okay.
back in March.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was televised?
Yeah.
Obviously. Wow. There's a lot of stuff that needs to change in this city, and
Well, the thing is we got to get people on council that
Mhm.
watchdog,
yeah.
that question everything they do. You know what I mean? That stand there and go, "What are you doing?" or "Why?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, or question the amount.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Look for the questions under the questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of times they'll come up with a smile and a proposal, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what's going on behind that proposal.
Right.
There's a
Now,
lot of things that go on that people don't see. What you see on the outside is nothing compared to what goes on behind the door.
that seems to be a given with anything in society, like not only in council, it happens in our lives, and,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
with
nobody
this-
knows what happens behind closed doors type
But
things.
this council does a lot of behind closed doors when they shouldn't be. Council is supposed to be council. It's supposed to be a public council.
Right.
The only time you're supposed to be behind closed doors is when you're dealing with personnel
Mm-hmm.
or legal issues concerning city finance or city lawsuits or like legalities
Right, the
involving
personal
cities.
things, yes.
But anything else,
Mm-hmm.
budgetary, bylaws, all of that has to be out in open council. But they run back there at the drop of a hat for every little thing. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's a pizza break.
A pizza break? Oh, goodness.
Well, I could say it's the cocktail hour, but
Well, that's pushing it.
yeah, that'd be pushing it.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at a pizza break.
So, if elected, what change with everything that you said? What's your first thing on your mind when you get in? If you get in, sorry.
If I get in, well, first thing is to ascertain what we have. You can't do anything until you figure out what you're working with.
Right.
Okay, now, once you figure out what you're working with, then what you have to do is, it's like a bill of materials. You figure out what you have, and then you have to look at all the, everything, all the problems that you have, and then you have to prioritize those problems. And you try to deal with the worst first, always. Okay, so you have to prioritize. You just don't go, oh, well, you know what, we'll get a lot of publicity if we go over here and do this because this is visible. We don't hide because, oh, well, they don't see that, so we can just let that rot. You go out and you look for the worst first. And if you're out there and you see an issue, then you call the Public Works, right? And you let them know, and you go in, you put a work order in for it,
Right.
okay? And you expect that to be addressed within a short period of time. Not 6 months, not a year, not 18 months, and not, well, we didn't get to it this year, we might get to it next year, or it wasn't on this year's budget. No, that's infrastructure. That should be fixed when it's found,
Right.
right? And this is what I mean by prioritizing. Okay, now I know we don't have the tax base or the tax money, but then again, now if we stop wasting money, there's so much money in this city that it's just plain wasted, right? We have, well, we just had all of those supervisors turned into directors, right? Now, they got a $40,000 a year raise. Each one of them. And that way there, so they can retire in comfort at our expense. Wasn't that nice of us? And Mayor Hobbs and council, they were all smiles and giggles for it, doing their photo op.
Lots happens.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, you know, they're always good for a photo op, though.
Well, me too.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I'm not very photogenic, so
Oh, come on.
I tend to not stay in front of the camera too much. I'm a guy that likes to be behind it.
Yeah,
I'm a photographer, not in front of it. So, yeah.
absolutely.
In fact, being in front of it scares me, kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the couch is comfortable. Come
Well,
on now.
that's true.
Is there anything else we need to discuss today before we?
Well, we talked about infrastructure and the need for repairing that. We talked about the homelessness, the poor, and the crime.
Yep.
And the event center, well, pretty much everybody knows my view on that. I've been against that since the beginning. And like I said before, I'd like to see one, but we can't afford it. And especially at that price tag. Especially when you look at other cities that have built them for 40 million, 35 million, you know what I mean? All the same size, 6,000 seat venues
Okay.
for that price. So, like, why is this one costing 120 million? And that's just, and you know it's going to be way more. So what are we doing? Now, if these guys are the ones involved in these lawsuits, okay, so what is this? Almost like some kind of a borrow from Paul to pay Peter from before.
Right.
Okay, so here we'll just go charge more for this job, so we can take some of that job to pay for that lawsuit, and then the next job we'll have to pay for the lawsuit from this job.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying it is.
No, I
but
know.
It's, you know, it's like a vicious cycle.
It is.
And, you know, when you go and Google something like that, you see PLC construction, and you've got 25 pages of hits.
Which you haven't really sorted out through yet.
No,
So
but that's just, but how, you know, but I mean, even at that, even if there's a 10%, that's way more than we should be hiring for building a $120 million event center.
right.
We already have brand new buildings that are nothing but trouble. And we want another one?
We'll have to wait and see what happens and sort all this out. And the meeting tomorrow night is at 7 o'clock at the Italian Cultural Center.
I'll be there. I'll be
You'll be
there to
there?
shake hands. Just look for a guy with a camera and a shiny head.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming once again to visit On the Couch. And
Well, at least I didn't stretch out and have a snooze. At my age, well, actually, one guy did call. He says no, nothing against you, Mr. Powell, on T-Base Source on the paper thing or online there. He says, but we don't need another elderly man running for council. Well, I realize that I'm elderly, but it still works.
it's always a pleasure, Doug, and a laugh. Thank you so much for being here. You take care.
All right, now I'll see if I can get my old bones off the couch.
Thank you.